Okay. In the beginning of Act 2, the past moments, like talking to Ben and the Aberfield episode, they look apparently okay or happy. Okay, but then it is the sequence of reality checks that Willie encounters before and after the good moments that forces him to face the climax in the past, and that is Willie in Boston. Willie and the woman in Boston. Okay, let's go back to reality check. Okay, and talking more specifically about the role of Howard and Charlie, I think that we can say that if Howard is just an impersonal or indifferent boss, then Charlie is a good friend. But if we look at their roles as businessmen, they share some similarities. Or the so-called cold blood, they share some of that. They're having cold blood. Okay. For instance, like when Howard talked to Willie, I think Howard, Charlie, and Willie, they are all fathers. So they are all loving to their children, okay? But in the business world, Willie depends on connections and human sympathy, but Howard does not have that. He doesn't care about how Willie works hard for the company and for his own father. For him, in the present time, he's useless, and that's the truth. Okay, and then he'll just have to act on it. Okay, and that's why. When at first he just doesn't want to talk to him. He doesn't want to talk to Willie and say that, oh, I have a lot of people to talk to. But then after Willie loses himself and loses his temper, Howard comes back in and say that he's going to fire him. Okay, because he knows that having Willie represent them in Boston is no longer good. Okay, let's take a look at the recording machine episode. I don't have time to read the details for you, but I think the recording machine here is very important. For instance, what the song reads. It seems that the expansionist desire or the desire to expand, to accumulate capital, is voiced symbolically by the son in reading out the capitals. On page 79. Okay, just a little bit above the middle. The capital of Alabama is Montgomery, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And also, as I just said, the fact that Willie bumps into it accidentally and then cannot control it, cannot operate the recording machine, is also symbolic because of his own clumsiness in this industrial society. Okay. And then about Charlie, as I said, on the one hand, Charlie is a good friend, a caring person, but in business, as cold blood, as Howard. For instance, when he talks to Willie, he says that my salvation is that I never took any interest in anything. Okay, so Charlie is just matter of fact. He doesn't really worry that much about his son. And then he doesn't really, but by saying interest, maybe we can say that he's not passionate about anything. So in that sense, Charlie can get by. He can function properly, in doing the buying and selling, all the daily business, instead of being lost in his own passion as Willie does. Okay, and then also Charlie, a bit like Willie, takes on this kind of aggressive rhetoric. Okay, like just now I read it. His line, "Knock a homer, knock a homer." Okay, or "Knock them dead, Bernard." These are all lines that suggest that Charlie can be as aggressive as Willie or as Howard. because they are all businessmen in this society. Finally, the most interesting thing about Charlie is that he loves to shoot casino. He loves shooting casino. Actually, I don't exactly know what shooting casino is. I think that it's a kind of game. Okay, but I think that with the word casino, 赌场 in it, it must be some type of like the enterprise, 就是大富翁, a bit like that game which involves gambling, which involves opportunities to earn money, etc. Okay, so in other words, I think that when we look at the characters, we need to separate two things. One is the characters as friends, as family members, and the characters as representatives in this capitalist society. And sometimes they mean different things in different roles. Okay. Okay. Finally, about Ben. Even when Willie goes to Ben for solutions, Ben also points out something empty about Willie, and this is on page 1683. 83. When Ben talks to Willie, Willie says, "Oh, I've been with the company for a long time. I helped build the company." Let me see. About 10 lines from the bottom. Sure, I'm building something with this firm, Ben. And if a man is building something, he must be on the right track, mustn't he? And then Ben asks, "What are you building? Lay your hand on it. Where is it?" And then Willie says to Linda, "That's true. There's nothing. What he builds is connection. What he builds is name. But then neither name nor connection will last. People will die, and so connections will be gone, and then name will be forgotten." Okay, so that's why even in talking to Ben, he realizes that what he had achieved is actually empty, empty of meanings in the present time. Okay. Okay. This is to talk about Biff's Willie's being pushed to face reality. Just now we talked about how the other characters force him to face reality, but I think that on the other hand, Willie at some point is courageously facing reality, or maybe we can say that he's a bit mindless, but then he finally is willing to face reality in his mindlessness, in his loss of control. And this is when he says, "Open the door," before he goes into the restroom, in the restaurant. I think that's a moment when Willie starts to face the past. But it's just coincidental that at the moment when he faces the past, his kids leave him behind. So he's there alone facing the past. Okay. And as I just said, I think what is the most noble about this part is that after he faces the past, there is an act of human sympathy expressed by Stanley. Because Stanley, the waiter, refuses to get money from him. That's one thing. And the other thing is Willie asks Stanley where he can get seeds. That is a very important act. At the moment when he is all caught up with bad memories, with dilemmas about the present, failures in the past, I think Willie's attempt to try to plant something is very important. Because planting something means bringing life to something. So that's an opposite attempt to what he also tries to do, and that is committing suicide. So that the son can get the insurance money. Okay. So I think Willie's being pushed to the corner is definitely for sure. But after he's cornered, these are the two attempts he makes. And whether you see him as a dignified human being depends on how you look at this, how you look at his facing the past. Okay, he's opening the door and then seeking solutions at that point. Okay. Okay, about Biff, I think that Biff, as I said, I think besides Willie, who is being forced to face the reality, Biff is one to be willing to face the reality. So that's something that makes Biff one with some redeeming grace towards the end. You know, talking about the past, you know, talking about the ending of the play, whether there is any sign of hope at the end. You know, maybe you can look at Biff and see what he does and what his solutions mean at the end. Okay, so for instance, he's the one to take away the rubber tube. So he in the end of Act 1, he's the one to take action to try to solve the problem. And then when Linda tells him that, oh, your father takes away the rubber tube, you know, he stopped Linda from the kind of false optimism she always has. Okay, and then in Act 2, as what the group just read, he's the one to want to tell the truth, but then he's forced to make up the lie, and then he goes back to tell the truth. Okay, and then finally, this is a passage that we'll read closely, and that is towards the end, he faces his father directly and tell him that, you know, I'm just not the person you think I am. You know, I'm a dime a dozen, etc. So this is a point when he confronts the father with both his real self and the issue of the rubber tube. Okay, and I think this is where Biff is the most truthful of all the family persons. And finally, I think that we'll get you to read that passage. I think that what is very touching at that point is that, you know, although Biff tells Willie the reality about himself, and then he cries, and then he said, will you let me go? Let me get to the page. Yes, 1707. He crying broken, the last 10 lines from the bottom. Will you let me go? Will you take that phony dream and burn it before something happens? Okay, and then Willie, isn't that remarkable? Biff, he likes me. Okay, I think that really between two human beings, sometimes different messages can mean different things. And here it's amazing how Willie is selective in getting the message. That's one thing. But then you can also say that it's Biff's attempt to ask Willie to move beyond their past conflict. He says that, no, I'm not doing it out of spite. You know, because the word spite, you know, is something that Willie is concerned with. Willie has always thought that Biff give up himself just because of the past event. But then here he said, no, it's not out of spite. You know, I'm just not the person you think I am. Okay, so at the end, when Biff gives the truth, you know, it's also an act of love. And for Willie, what he gets is the act of love. It's the sign of love, but not the truth. Okay, so I think this passage is really interesting. You know, something we can analyze more closely next time. Okay, so here let me just give you some examples of Biff's realistic statements. For instance, in Act 1, he talks about his being a nobody. You know, he's getting 20 to 30 jobs in some years. Okay, and then he works very hard for 1 year only for the sake of 2 weeks of vacation. And then he's saying that I'm a dime a dozen, and so you are. Okay, and also he says that in the family they never tell truth for 10 minutes. Okay, And at the Requiem, Willie also is one to say that, Biff is also the one to say that he had wrong dreams. Okay, and whether you agree with Biff or not, that's something we can discuss next time. And this is also the very important passage that Biff says about his facing himself. He says that he runs away with a fountain pen. Okay, run like 20 levels, 20 floors downstairs. Okay, and then he saw the sky, and then he saw the things that he loves. Okay, let me read this part. I saw the things I love in this world, the work and food, and the time to sit and smoke. And I looked at the pen and I thought, what the hell am I grabbing this for? Why am I trying to become what I don't want to be? When all I want is out there waiting for me the minute I say I know who I am. Okay, so this is the moment of stealing apparently is a moment of failure, failing his father's expectation. But on the other hand, it can also be seen as a moment of self-realization that Biff finally knows who he is. Okay, and about Willie's last action, you can look at it in different ways, and that's something I would like you to express your ideas. For one thing, you can say that it is very realistic because he is calculating. He knows that now they have paid off all the mortgage for the house. They are free of that. Okay, and if he can get insurance, it means income. It means income for the kid to invest on the Lehman brothers. They want to have set up. Okay, so it's $20,000. Okay, in his pocket. So this is the really realistic concern he has. But on the other hand, I think that he's also talking about the big funeral, and Ben, in his mind, says that this is a jungle and there are diamonds in the jungle. So he also looks at it in a dreamy way, as if it were something glamorous, something very shiny and precious. And also, Ben keeps talking about a boat. So it suggests that, for him, this is another journey to take so that they'll be successful. So the boat does not suggest the end. Okay, so there are some unrealistic elements in Willie's final statement about his plan. Okay, just as there is a really symbolically benevolent act he takes, and that is to plant the seeds. Okay, so towards the end, when Willie decides to commit suicide, there again are so many aspects about him that we can look at. His dream, his realistic concerns, and also his fear. Before he goes off, he's really afraid. He's afraid. Okay, so I think all of these are something we can look into. Okay, and finally, very quickly, I think that besides the protagonists, besides the main characters, even the subordinate characters, the minor characters, they reveal some reality about Willie. The woman we talked about, and Stanley too. Okay, so Stanley, he talks about how when he talks to Happy at the beginning, he said, "Oh, I'll get you a quiet place in the restaurant." These city people, they like it to be noisy because they cannot stand being alone at home. Okay, so there's some truth to what Stanley, as a waiter, says about the city people. How they like a crowd and how they cannot stand being quiet. Okay, and finally, about the stage directions, just pay attention to all the elements. Apartment building, the whole play will end with apartment building, with I think glaring orange color. Okay, Willie's house versus the apartment building, the football sneakers, stockings, tennis versus football, the recorder, and also the pen, the fountain pen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me stop here and give you the quiz. We'll leave the last 2 slides to next time.